Viewers, tonight we bring to you a story that will redefine the narrative of our nation's resolve. On April 22nd, 26 innocent souls were butchered in Pelgam. Tourists, families, dreams gunned down in a barbaric act of terror. The nation wept, raged and demanded justice. For 15 days, a restless silence gripped our hearts. Speculation swirled, questions burned. Why the delay? What would India do? Was justice to be denied? Viewers, for the first time, we pull back the curtain on the untold story of those 15 days. A saga of steely determination, meticulous planning, and unyielding commitment to retribution. Within minutes of the Pelgam massacre, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a decision that would forever change the rules of engagement between India and Pakistan. PM Modi decided that the perpetrators would pay and Pakistan's terror factories would face India's fire and fury. Viewers, under the razor-sharp leadership of the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, a team of India's finest minds worked in the shadows, crafting a response that would not just avenge but annihilate the roots of terror in Pakistan. Viewers, Operation Sindoor was born not in haste but in precision, not in chaos but in calculated resolve. For 15 days, while the nation waited, viewers, India's warriors prepared to strike at the heart of terror. 9 targets deep inside Pakistan and Pak-occupied Kashmir, including the nerve centers of Jaish and Lashkar. Viewers, tonight we bring you the exclusive, never before told account of how India turned grief into grit, pain into power. This is the story of Operation Sindoor, India's thunderous answer to those who dared to spill our blood. Stay with us as we are joined by our Group Editor-in-Chief, Navika Kumar, who will reveal the details of a mission that shook the world and reaffirmed one truth: India will not forgive and India will not forget.
Absolutely. And Pranesh, today we are going to tell our viewers the story, not just about what they saw on the 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th of May. We will also tell them what really happened on the 22nd of April. While Prime Minister was in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, the decision had been made. The Prime Minister from the front led his team of experts, and it was Ajit Doval, the all-time sleuth that India has had, National Security Advisor, whose experience on intelligence and in Pakistan affairs came to the fore and helped India make a foolproof plan that ultimately saw India gaining victory. The Prime Minister was clear that this was time for retribution. No more niceties, no more standing and condemning only in words. It was the time for action, and that is exactly what Prime Minister did. Operation Sindoor files, that's the big story we bring to you on Times Now tonight. And as we start, Pranesh.
Yes, the breaking number 1, viewers. When was the decision taken? It was taken within minutes. The retribution resolve in Riyadh. That's breaking number 1. The details you've not heard till this minute. Operation Sindoor, the classified chronicles, breaking with Navika Kumar on Times Now. Navika, tell us what happened shortly after the Pelgam attack.
Well, it was very clear. Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia had been accompanied by both the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Also present with the Prime Minister in Riyadh was National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. A meeting was held not just in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, but also on the way back to Delhi. The decision was taken, and there you can see the AI-generated visuals that we've made for you. All through the flight, the Prime Minister, the External Affairs Minister, and the National Security Advisor decided the time was now, and this would have to be responded to. Operation Sindoor Files Chapter 1 takes you through what really transpired in the 15 days, because the Prime Minister's direction was clear. It was retribution time, and planning needed to be done. The plans were left to the experts. The plans were left to the man who was leading the team, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval.
So while people in India were thinking, what would India do? When would India strike Pakistan? The decision had been taken just minutes after the terrorists butchered 26 innocent civilians in Pelgam. Before we go to breaking two, let me quickly open this up to the panel. We have Air Marshal Dr. Diptendu Chaudhary, Sushant Sareen, Captain Alok Bansal, Colonel Mahesh Ramachandran, Group Captain D.K. Pandey, RSN Singh, Suhail Seth and Tushar Gupta completes this panel. Suhail, what does this tell you about the political will of the nation and the character of a leader leading the nation, that within minutes the decision was taken by the Prime Minister in Riyadh while he was away, when he was told that this has happened in Pelgam?
See, it's been evident, Pranesh, ever since Narendra Modi took office, that this is going to be an office which takes decisions. When Dr. Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, the Prime Minister was in office but not in power. Sonia Gandhi was in power but not in office. Here, the power and the office are with one man, AB. His style, both as Chief Minister then and as Prime Minister now, has been one where decision-making is the ultimate attribute that he seeks, not only from himself, but from all his people. Also, Pranesh, for all the idiots, pardon my slight French, for all the idiots who believe that we stumbled initially, which was part of the fake narrative presented to us by the CNNs and the New York Times of the world, it is now apparent that we worked to a strategy. We weren't stumbling from one block to the other. We weren't relying on rogue countries like Turkey to, supplement our cause. Ours was a fight for humanity. Theirs was a fight to save terror and terrorism and terrorists. I think what Navika and you have said about the way the decision was taken, the immediacy with which it was taken, also is a great motivator, Pranesh. Great leaders lead from the front. They take a decision and they expect people to buy into that decision because they communicate that decision based on logic, purpose, and objective. All three were communicated by Narendra Modi, both to his people as well as to the general janta, the general citizenry of India. That is important. That is leadership.
Right. Stay with us. We have more details that we are going to unravel. Here's chapter number 2, the big breaking input as we, decode Operation Sindoor files. How this entire operation took off. The battle planning began, and Navika will now share the details.
Absolutely. And we're bringing to you the fact that the Prime Minister came, and these visuals, everybody has seen before. These visuals are etched in our mind. When the Prime Minister landed at Delhi airport, where he was briefed by the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, he summoned the NSA, who also had traveled back from Riyadh to Delhi with him, and all of them had a meeting at the airport itself, where the stock was taken on what would be the world's response and how India should proceed in this manner, because retribution and Pakistan needed to be made to pay for this is something that had been settled as the bottom line. Foreign Secretary, Foreign Minister, NSA and Prime Minister meeting at the airport just showed how important decision making and the time was at this point in time. And not just this. Let me give you the story, and that's the next big story coming up. We will tell you the meetings, the 47 meetings that led to the 7th of May attacks on the terror camps. 47 meetings, a full intelligence and defense network that planned for 15 days. 15 days, 47 meetings. That's what it took to make a meticulous plan. And these meetings, Pranesh, where do you think these meetings were held? Do you think they were held at South Block? I'm asking you this question because it is a riddle for you.
I don't know. It's a calculated guess, perhaps at the office of the National Security Advisor or in South Block. I don't know.
Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, none of these meetings of those 14 days were held anywhere in the defense ministry or the South Block or the NSA office or any of the defense chief's offices. Not at the Air Force headquarters, not at the Navy headquarters, not at the Army headquarters. These meetings, 47 of them, were held at a safe house location where there was no digital footprint. Meetings, meticulous plannings, sometimes running through the night and the day. There were times when all of them met together for coordination. There were times when there was preparation for Army, which meeting was held by NSA heading it. Then there was the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, and then sometimes the Army Chief, sometimes the Air Force Chief, sometimes the Navy Chief, individually, and then together. Many rounds of these meetings took place, and the Prime Minister was routinely, periodically advised on how far the plans had been worked out. All of this happening with an absolute clear agenda. When to strike Pakistan, how to strike Pakistan, and the agenda was maximum damage, minimum risk. That was the bottom line. No risk, maximum damage to Pakistan.
15 days, 47 meetings, that makes it 3 meetings a day, more than 3 meetings a day, tells you about the intensity with which this team was working. There's more, viewers. Here's chapter 4 of Operation Sindoor files, breaking exclusively on Times Now. What were the deciding factors? How were targets in Pakistan locked? Navika Kumar with the details.
Well, clearly, at this moment, let me tell you, there were 3 major issues, in fact, that were decided. The Prime Minister's objective was very clear. This should be a message to the world. This should be a message to Pakistan. And this should be a message to Indians that terrorism will not make us die down, not bow down. We will not step back. We will not be defensive. The message to the world was, we didn't need your help. If we were left alone in this battle, India would fight alone. And to Pakistan, panga mat lena. India is going to hit back. Enough of this terror game that has been played. And let me tell our viewers tonight and our panelists, and Sushant Sareen, I want to come to you. But first here, the four counters on which the entire plan was made. Every single decision, every single plan had to have 4 factors that it needed to fulfill. The success rate on a scale of 0 to 5, range of our equipment, range and preparedness of Pakistan's equipment and army, and the least chance of interception. These were the bottom line factors that needed to be satisfied to pick up a plan. 10 plans were made. 3 of them were picked up. Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. And Sushant Sareen, important that these factors, least chance of interception and the success rate of a plan, because 0 to 5 was the scale on which each plan was measured. Is this India's clarity of thought that minimum risk and maximum damage was the objective?
Navika, I believe minimum risk and maximum damage always has to be objective. But I think what is even more important was that this is a government that was willing to take the risk. Very often you had governments in India which were simply not ready to take any risk. There was a certain amount of, I won't say cowardliness. I think that's not the correct word, but there was this hesitation, this fear, this pusillanimity that if we do something, then we don't know, maybe the heavens will fall. I think most importantly, it was the resolve of this government to make sure that they are going to visit retribution on the enemy. And I think that is the single most important thing. After that, it is a matter of preparation. After that, it's a matter of calculation, and you bring in all your the synergy of your intelligence agencies, your defense forces, your political establishment, your diplomatic establishment. You pool everything together to make sure that everybody is working as a unit, which exactly is what has happened. And what is remarkable, Navika, and I'm sure journalists like you would really not be very happy with that, because Delhi is a city which has been famous for leaks or infamous for leaks. And I think the one thing which we have seen in the last 10 years of this government, 11 years of this government, is leaks don't happen. When there are serious plans at work, there are no leaks. Now, as analysts, all of us were expecting something is going to happen. Something has to happen. But let me tell you, even I was taken aback by the sheer audacity of what we did on the night of 6th and 7th. The kind of targets we selected, the 100% success rate of hitting all those targets, and the fact that we continued to go up the escalation ladder. We were not ready to back down. And I think all of that shows that how the granular level at which we planned. And Navika, allow me half a minute more. I was always of the view that we have to take kinetic action. It is unavoidable. It is a necessity. But I was also of the view that please take kinetic action after you have taken into account all the you've gamed the reaction of the enemy. And I can tell you one thing, Navika. I myself am surprised by the sheer success of what we have managed to achieve, that in just 3 or 4 days, we've destroyed virtually the entire air defense system of the Pakistanis. The kind of damage we have inflicted on them in just 3 or 4 days. And had this operation gone on, the Pakistan Air Force would have been decimated. I think we ourselves didn't want to escalate beyond a point because this operation had limited objectives. And I must say that this operation has achieved all those objectives and more, because the Pakistanis were stupid enough to think that they could try and challenge us, try and hit back, and not expect any retaliation in return. And that happened, and we continued to scale up our retaliation. So, frankly, salute to the political establishment, the military establishment, the diplomatic guys, and of course our agent Vinods and phantoms and babies of the intelligence services.
You were talking about preventing leaks. I can tell you, and I'll want Navika to share more details, that there were, of the 3 plans that she told us about, there was an element of surprise not just for Pakistan, but even for people who were involved in planning here. Navika.
Absolutely. As I told you, 10 plans were first made. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C were then finalized. On the evening of the 6th of May, it was decided that tonight, after midnight, is when we will launch our attack. And the time was settled post-midnight. Later on, as we know, in hindsight, this was at 1:05 on 7th May, wee hours of the morning, that this strike was launched at the terror camps in Pakistan. May I tell you the big surprise here? 2 hours before 1:05 that night, at 11:10, Plan A was set aside and Plan B was kicked in. Plan B was kicked in, and all the preparation that had gone on for Plan A was kept aside. Remember, all the 3 plans were absolutely ready from the point 1 to the ultimate point. But even though Plan A was the most preferred till about 11 p.m. that night, at 11:10 the plan was changed, and the lowest risk of interception existed in Plan B, and that is how, Pranesh, it was picked up, and that is why today we know 9 targets and all 100% delivery.
This is the backstory that hasn't come out so far. We've told you about 3 important things. Let me quickly recap for our viewers joining this broadcast. There was no delay, viewers, in decision making. The retribution decision was taken by Prime Minister Modi in Riyadh. Chapter 2 of Operation Sindoor files, the battle planning stage. The Prime Minister lands at the Pelgam Air Base, and then he held an important meeting with the people who briefed him. External Affairs Minister NSA Doval, as also our Foreign Secretary, and we've told you about the Chapter 3 of Operation Sindoor files, about the safe house where this meeting took place. How many? 47 meetings across 15 days. Before we tell you about what we struck and the details about it, I want to quickly bring in RSN Singh. RSN Singh, what do you make of what you've heard so far?
No, perfectly. You're perfectly right in what you have said, that it was not a knee-jerk response. It cannot be. It is what is a cool, calculated and calibrated response with the 10 contingency plans you have said. But let me remind your viewers that these contingency plans do not develop over days or weeks. These are developed over a period of time, and they are in place. And maybe our establishment have these plans much from before. That is what it differentiates between from earlier dispensations. Target acquisitions. Pranesh, do you think that you can just go and acquire a target within a matter of 10 days? No, sir, it doesn't happen. The process of target designation and the munition that you want to address that particular target with is decided much before. And there is a humongous amount of technical intelligence and human intelligence involved in it, and a great amount of intelligence cooperation. I am always emphasizing on this intelligence cooperation. No country in this world can alone, every country has intelligence cooperation with others. So we picked up this. Now you were asking, you were saying that foolproof plan. Yes, we have seen one trait of Mr. Modi, that he picks up a plan, maximum impact. Of course, I mean everybody does that, minimum effort and maximum, but he also ensures that with minimum of casualties. We saw that in Uri. The pains that we took, or the lengths that we went, that there is not even a single man left behind, in that surgical strike. Then in Balakot, even if we had lost one aircraft in Balakot, I mean, the narrative would have been, what people are adept at. But it didn't happen. And this time too, sir, I'm telling you, in the annals of warfare, this is one of the, what should I say, we fought the entire war from a standoff distance. And while you are talking about, this preparations and other things, let me tell you, full respects to the entire dispensation, and particularly the National Security Advisor. After all, he presides over this, this entire security apparatus. And why it didn't happen earlier? Because we suffered from a strategic sloth, and we did not have a strategic imagination. We did not have political daring, and we did not have political will.
Sohail said it, Sushant Sarin said it, now you've said it. We lacked political will. And before we bring in Chapter 4, and that's coming up in about 5-6 minutes, we will tell you about Masood Azhar, something that you've not known. It is the most interesting aspect of the Operation Sindoor files. Navita, before that, let's bring in Air Marshal Diptendu Chaudhary. Air Marshal Chaudhary, what does this tell you about the kind of planning, the meticulous planning that went into the making of Operation Sindoor?
Thank you, Pranesh. Good evening, and good evening to all the panelists. It's nice to be back. And you asked a question which I think is something which is very interesting, because not too many people are aware of the scale of planning which goes on into a mission like this. And very interestingly, I mean, at the first visuals you showed, and the first decisions apparently were taken in the air, in the aircraft. And it is ironic, the delivery of the first attack was also by air. So I'm not surprised that the first plannings of these 47 locations were in, absolutely behind the curtains, and which is rightly they show. But what is interesting is after the initial decisions were taken, in the clarity of actions to be taken that followed, I think says it all. It was a combination of, air power was chosen as a lead player. But while I'm saying this, I also want to underscore one fact that, air power just alone can't do it. Yes, most certainly in Balakot, that is exactly how it was. Uri, Army went in alone. Balakot, Air Force went in alone. But this time around, all the services were actively involved from the beginning. And the fact that in the initial meetings, you saw the CDS, the three service chiefs, along with the PM and the RM, gave away a lot. So you can imagine that it is not just one mission. In Balakot, it was one target. This time it was 9 targets. It complicates the planning to probably it makes it 9 times more difficult. So there were so many more options which would have gone into it, intricacies of planning. And it was with Air Force at the lead, so the Army and the Navy would have also been support in every way they can. This would have been coordinated in a manner that, okay, first we go in and hit. First is obviously some of the aspects that the panelists brought out, that the target selection itself, amongst the 21 targets, the first 9 were hit, but I'm sure I can assure you this, that the plans would have been made for all 21, and the actual targets being hit would have depended on the actual final intelligence available and the near real-time situation.
And Chaudhary,
there would have been enormous planning.
I want to bring in Navita at this point, and let's talk about Chapter 4. Chapter 4 of Operation Sindoor files, now breaking on Times Now. Navita, I want to know what happened in Bahawalpur.
Well, the 9 targets that were chosen, Pakistan never dreamt in their wildest dreams that India would go so far deep inside Punjab, which is really what Pakistan is all about. Punjab is their treasured territory. This is where all their politicians come from. This is where their generals come from. This is where the power, the money really lies. That is the state of Punjab. And here, India not only went up to, no longer was India playing around the POK area close to the LOC. They went up to Bahawalpur. They went up to Muridke. They went and destroyed all of this. And Pranesh, what is most interesting, many people are wondering what happened to Masood Azhar, who was our main target. He missed by a whisker. The payload that was supposed to land on him landed on 11 members on his family. He was a wall away in the next building and doing some planning, doing some conversations with his generals, but 11 members of his family were completely decimated in that attack on Bahawalpur. Masood Azhar, according to intelligence reports that our sleuths have, Masood Azhar was beside himself, 11 people wiped out in a second, 25 minutes, 9 camps and 11 members of Masood Azhar's family wiped out. He missed by a whisker.
Can I ask you something,
brought it down to that.
Are you saying that Masood Azhar was there when 11 members of his family were struck by missiles? He was there.
He was there, if I have to believe very high sources who have given this information, and my sources very clear. He was very much there in the Bahawalpur camp, in the building that was bombed. He just stepped out a few minutes before that, is the intelligence input that they have. And he was besides himself in grief and in rage because his entire fort had been completely decimated. And, you know, information, intelligence, everything with India made it such a precision attack. Masood Azhar was brought down to his knees.
I can't believe it. I have goosebumps now. Masood Azhar was in an adjacent building, or perhaps just walked out of a building that was struck. So a wall separated Masood Azhar, and perhaps You know, this explains why he said, "Mujhe bhi, meri bhi maut ho jati." He watched, he was, you know, he was a witness to India's fire and fury. Colonel, what do you think of this? Colonel Ramachandran?
Thanks, Pranesh. I have no doubt at all on the intelligence. Where else would Masood Azhar be other than with his family or close to his family at that time of the night? Coming down to the planning, you know, nine strikes on the terror headquarters would have required a hell of a lot of planning, war gaming, contingency planning. The terms of reference would have been clearly laid down: surprise, speed, and maximum destruction. So I have no doubt. And let me tell you, even as we speak, I am sure NSA and the Army chiefs and the CDS are probably planning for the next phase of Sindoor. So it comes as no surprise to me, and I compliment the you know, this team of the intelligence setup that we have, and just contrast this to the intelligence setup of the Pakistanis. You heard in one of the shows where the Pakistani panelist was told that you really need intelligence to take out Osama bin Laden. You only needed a pair of binoculars. There's one more thing. Actually, it's not this planning. There was an unkept promise 4 years back in the Paris Air Show, where in the India Pavilion, our BrahMos was very proudly displayed by the DRDO, and the Pakistani Air Force delegation walked in and they asked the price, what is the price of this? And our DRDO scientist, without missing a beat, without batting an eyelid, said, for Pakistan, you will receive it free. And in 4 days back, that promise was also kept. So I think it's all gone very, very well, very well as far as planning and execution is concerned. And I am sure that we are ready with all our planning should Pakistan, engage into a misadventure.
Tushar, Masood Azhar, the details that no one knew. Masood Azhar, at the time of the strike, was in an adjacent building. He witnessed India's resolve, our fire and fury. And look at what the Pakistani establishment is doing, or is forced to do. 14 crores as compensation announced for Masood Azhar.
Pranesh, a part of me feels relieved that Masood Azhar survived to see the carnage and to see the death of his family members. I express this sentiment because he is the man responsible for a lot of deaths of Indian civilians. But a part of me is also unhappy because I have to wait a few more months, perhaps a few more days, to see Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar be killed by our armed forces. Terrorism cannot be spoken to anymore. Terrorists cannot be argued with anymore. That's the new India doctrine. Masood Azhar or Hafiz Saeed, Pranesh, I am telling you today, they'll all die at the hands of our Indian armed forces and a wonderful hardware within the next few months. And the next time they plan any terror attack on Indian soil, they'll know someone somewhere up in the air is looking at them and a missile is headed their way. Just yesterday I was thinking about the drones that are now sort of going to become the new norm, and they'll be sending a lot of them from Pakistan, all from the roof of a 4x4. And even just earlier today, we have tested another new anti-drone system, an air defense system that can take out these nano drones. India's hardware, India's armed forces are in a huge upgrade. You look at 2016, you look at 2019, Pranesh. 2016, we go into POK, we hit the terror camps. 2019, we hit the terror camps in mainland Pakistan. Compare it to Operation Sindoor. From the north in Skardu to the south in Karachi, we have practically hit everything. We did not care if those bases were also a part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor.
Right.
We did not care if those bases hosted or harbored the JF-17s, which are again made in China. We did not care if those bases had Chinese radar systems. We did not give two hecks about what hardware was installed in these bases. From north to south, we attacked the entire Pakistan.
Or maybe we cared and we prepared, Tushar. Who knows?
No.
That is what went into 47 meetings across 15 days. the details that Navita Kumar has just shared. And before we, bring in Group Captain Pandey, Navita, you were telling us about Masood Azhar and how moments after the strike, he was, crying inconsolably.
Of course, 11. Hindi में कहावत है, जोतन लागे सोतन जाने. He has created so many terror attacks. People have lost their family members. The pain, the grief that they have seen, clearly something that Masood Azhar needed to feel before he was liquidated and before he meets his God. The question tonight is grief, sure, retribution, preparation. Now, is Masood Azhar waiting for the countdown? Because India's resolve very clear. Masood Azhar may have missed the missile with a whisker, but saw 11 people of his family wiped out. What he's done on several repeated terror attacks in India is kill innocent civilians. Pelgam actually was one such attack that went too far. Religious profiling, killing men before their wives and their families was another level of a terror attack. This was the kind of terror attack that really should have made humanity and humanitarian activists across the world come up in arms. But we saw no candle marches. We saw nobody. New York Times called them militants, gunmen. That's how people referred to it. So India decided that if you don't get moved by terror, that's fine. We will fight our battle alone, and we really don't need any help. We will do this alone. And 9 targets that night clearly was a message not just to Pakistan, but also to the world that even if we were walking alone, we will walk the terror tightrope all alone, and we will do a fantastic job of it.
And the results for everyone to see. Sushant Sarin wants to make a quick point. Group Captain, I'm coming to you after this.
No, you were talking about Masood Azhar. I just wanted to narrate something to you which was told to me by a top Pakistani cleric who is very close to the military establishment, and I knew him quite well during my trips to Pakistan. He's still ensconced in the military establishment. And he's a Deobandi cleric, and he was very close to Masood Azhar. And his thing is that Masood Azhar is basically a psychopath. And like all demented psychopaths, he is also very cowardly. So for all his fiery speeches and all of that, in reality, he's quite a coward. And the one story this guy narrated to me was that Masood Azhar had gone to a terror training camp in Afghanistan in the old days. And out there, while some firing and all was going on, somebody fired and some rock shrapnel came and hit this guy. And he cried like a baby because he's that kind of a guy. So, I'm sure when the bomb must have landed at his house, he must have obviously soiled his salwar and all of that. That must have also hurt his ego. But apart from that, he would, of course, be crying like a baby. And now as the meme goes, his family WhatsApp group, he's not getting any more messages.
And, maybe he survived this to tell the tale of whoever is left there in Bahawalpur. Group Captain Pandey, your thoughts, sir?
The interesting part is there are 2 scenes. Scene 1, Pelgam, in front of ladies, their husbands were butchered and Sindoor was removed. And scene 2, Masood, in front of him, 11 family members. So the equation is balanced. Now coming on the most important aspect, 3 points I wanted to add here. First one is the paradigm shift in our approach. In Kargil war, air power was taken as escalatory element. While in case of these operations, we have seen air power is decisive if it is correctly planned and precisely conducted. So the basic thing is what we need to prepare is a hard the human electronic intelligence, whatever is possible in peacetime and whatever could be achieved. It was the outcome of the peacetime operations and day-to-day preparations. So finally, the precision we are appreciating, rather all panelists have mentioned about that it could be achieved by help of a long journey in normal peacetime. The point is we should learn few more lessons so that the whatever propaganda is going on. And one more point, point number 2, which I told 3 points. So point number 2 is India never believed in loud mouthing or rather information warfare and going to the word global platform and saying India has done this and that. I think this helped India to achieve the element of surprise in our operations. Number 3, the way we have declared act of war, the act of terror as act of war, this is a big messaging to strategic messaging to whole globe, as well as the Pakistanis. They know, even including terrorist elements, that if they try misadventures, there is no need of any action. India is authorized to take further action, and it may be deep penetration to their field. In these operations have proved that we can reach to any corner of the Pakistan. That is the very, very interesting part, and this is, I think, the bigger gain, because this will definitely boost our morale and confirm our preparedness. Air power is the way it has been conducted, and the joint operations.
Right.
As
and
far
there's
as
more, sir. There's more lined up as we unravel.
See how we can.
The chapters of Operation Sindoor files. More coming up at 9 p.m. on the News Hour with Navita Kumar. But Navita, before we bring in Captain Alok Bansal, you've seen successive governments over the last 3 decades. What's different about this one? The leadership.
Well, I can tell you, Pranesh, the Vajpayee government, we saw the Kargil war at that point in time. The resolve was there, and the government decisive, didn't want war, but went ahead because security of its own citizens extremely important. Always it has been provocation from Pakistan that has led to this. If you saw Vajpayee extended the Lahore bus yatra, he extended a hand of friendship. We don't, our culture is such that we don't make enemies, we always try to make friends. Vajpayee did it, and what we saw was the Kargil war. Then again, there was the UPA government. The terror attacks continued. We had blasts every now and then from Coimbatore to Jaipur to Varanasi. Every single city probably had a blast that it saw. But actually it was 26/11 in 2008 that was a tipping point. A country needed to show its resolve at that point in time. We did not see, unfortunately, we did not see the kind of political will that people in India probably expected. Everything else was made out of the 26/11. There was the RSS angle, there was the Hindu terror angle, all kinds of things were said, but no action, despite Ajmal Kasab being taken hostage alive. No action was taken against Pakistan, and we continued to do our dossier game. The question is, this time, did Pakistan cross a red line? And was this something that was coming? This action was coming, came late, came in 2025, but this time it went too far. And political will, well, Prime Minister Modi has always demonstrated that if there's one thing that exists in abundance, it is political will to take the hard decisions. Right or wrong, the risk-taking ability has always been there, and this time, the manner in which, the precision with which the entire plan of Operation Sindoor unfolded clearly shows that when you take the risk, fortune favors the brave, and that's what this has demonstrated, the victory that the world is talking about. India may have spoken last, but the world is sitting back and taking notice despite all the lies of Pakistan.
Captain Alok Bansal, Pakistan does not understand the language of dossiers. It understands this thrashing, decimation.
Well, Prime Minister Modi tried to explain them all the languages. Initially, when he came to power, he actually extended a hand of friendship. He invited Nawaz Sharif. He went for the wedding to Lahore. But Pakistan probably doesn't understand these languages, and that's why it had to be shown the right perspective. And that's why we had to tell them, if you can't understand the language of peace, we will have to teach you how to understand and how to deter you. And what is important, I think at this point of time, what you have said, one of the highlights is that not only the three services, but all organs of the state coordinated in a very nice manner to effectively carry out this strike and neutralize Pakistan's terror camps. Not only terror camps, but when Pakistan tried to retaliate, we actually destroyed their airstrips and almost 20 to 25% of their entire air assets. You talked of Bahawalpur, but please remember the strikes in Jacobabad and Bolari were even deeper. Jacobabad is virtually in the center of Pakistan. It is actually in the northern part of Baluchistan, northern part of Sindh touching Baluchistan. Bolari is actually north of Karachi. These were very deep strikes. And if you see the attacks of these places, they are precision strikes right on the runways. You can see how precise we have targeted these places on the other side of Indus. Bahawalpur still is closer, relatively closer. We have gone to Jacobabad where we have targeted military targets. Please understand. So that was even more significant, and what we have done is achievable. We have destroyed radars, we have destroyed hangars, we have destroyed runways, which requires precision, pinpointed accuracy. And what this war has shown is not only the coordination, but also the success of Made in India. The Indian products, Akash, BrahMos, they have actually shown that to the world that these systems which have been indigenously developed or produced in India can make their mark and can beat the best in the world. And that is what the world has seen. And I think they would be admiring. Pakistan would think twice before they venture into something like this ever again.
Yes, Suhail, you wanted to come in.
All this is absolutely right. This operation, that operation. You have to understand that today Narendra Modi has redefined how India will be treated and how India will treat people who are aggressors through terrorism. Sindoor is not an operation. It may be the name of an operation. It is a movement. It is an emotive call, and it signifies the strength of that vermilion. It signifies the strength that India will use and deploy. So please understand where Narendra Modi is coming from. For him, normally, Pranesh, if you're a student of history, as I'm sure you are, it's the Battle of Plassey, it's Dunkirk, Normandy. For the first time, you don't have a destination. It is not the battle for Rawalpindi or for any of those wretched cities or towns. It is a battle for humanity. That's the essential.
Well said. Marshal Chaudhary, you know, I give you the last word on the show, sir.
Thank you. What is actually immensely, really heartwarming, both after the Parliament attack and after the Mumbai attacks, the Air Force was ready to go in, but there was no decision forthcoming. Malakot was the first, of that scale, where we went in with a great deal of surprise, and we actually went right under the noses and struck them. But this time around, 9 targets spread over 1,000 kilometers. The sheer scale, depth, and the spread of the operation, the sheer offensive intent which was shown, is something remarkable. I think, everyone in the world is sitting up because nowhere has air power been hit an adversary in contemporary wars over 1,000 kilometers spread at the same time. That is incredible. And it's not only that. And, this whole concept of offense and defense. The air defense did a fantastic job, but in fact here the air defense played an offensive role actually. It enabled us to dominate their airspaces, allow us to go and target, like was brought out, right from Skardu all the way down to Karachi practically.
Islamabad, we hit Islamabad. It tells you, look at the messaging, that, we've got you mapped. Next time, dare you raise a finger? We will punish you. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. I thank all of you. I'm sorry, would have liked to discuss this in greater detail, but lots more coming up on the News Hour with Navita Kumar as we unpack Operation Sindoor files. This is a Times Now super exclusive. Please stay with us.